Tuesday, June 10th, 2014. I'm going to read you a letter here. The letter was retyped out. They left the grammatical errors in. The authors of this letter and the date of it will be revealed after you've seen what's in it, and you'll be astounded at who wrote this and when. It deals with extraterrestrials landing on Earth. It was listed as a top secret document that was revealed through the Freedom of Information Act. It's titled Relationships with Inhabitants of Celestial Bodies. Relationships with extraterrestrial men present no basically new problem from the standpoint of international law, but the possibility of confronting intelligent beings that do not belong to the human race would bring up problems whose solutions it is difficult to conceive. In the first place, it would be necessary to establish communication with them through some language or other, and afterwards, as a first condition for all intelligence, that they should have a psychology similar to that of men. At any rate, international law should make place for new law on a different basis, and it might be called law among planetary peoples, following the guidelines found in the Pentateuch. If these intelligent beings were in possession of a more or less culture and a more or less perfect political organization, they would have an absolute right to be recognized as independent and sovereign peoples. We would have to come to an agreement with them to establish the legal regulations upon which future relationships should be based, and it would be necessary to accept many of their principles. Finally, if they should reject all peaceful cooperation and become imminent threat to Earth, we would have the right to legitimate defense, but only insofar as would be necessary to annul this danger. Another possibility may exist, that a species of Homo sapiens might have established themselves as an independent nation on another celestial body in our solar system and evolved culturally independently from ours. Obviously, this possibility depends on many circumstances whose conditions cannot be yet foreseen. Continues on. Now we come to the problems of determining what to do if the inhabitants of the celestial bodies or extraterrestrial biological entities, which they named EBE, desire to settle here. If they are politically organized and possess a certain culture similar to our own, they may be recognized as an independent people. They could consider what degree of development would be required on Earth for colonizing. If they consider our culture to be devoid of political unity, they would have the right to colonize. Of course, this colonization cannot be conducted on classic lines. Superior form of colonizing will have to be conceived. That could be kind of a tutelage, possibly through the tacit approval of the United Nations. It's difficult to predict what the attitude of international law will be with regard to the occupation by celestial peoples of certain locations on our planet, but the only thing that can be foreseen is that there will be a profound change in traditional concepts. We cannot exclude the possibility that a race of extraterrestrial people, more advanced technologically and economically, may take it upon itself the right to occupy another celestial body. A moral entity? The most feasible solution, it would seem, would be this one: submit an agreement providing for the peaceful absorption of the celestial race or races in such a manner that our culture would remain intact, with guarantees that their presence would not be revealed, their presence not be revealed. That's important. There's many people, many theories out there that are saying that they walk among us right now. This advice that was given to military and political leaders actually suggests that that be the plan. So let's continue on here. And now to the final question of whether the presence of celestial astroplanes in our atmosphere is a direct result of our testing atomic weapons. The presence of unidentified spacecraft flying in our atmosphere and possibly maintaining orbits about our planet is now, however, accepted as de facto by our military. The use of the atomic bomb combined with space vehicles poses a threat on a scale which make it absolutely necessary to come to an agreement in this area. With the appearance of unidentified space vehicles, opinions are sharply divided as to their origin, over the skies of Europe and the United States has sustained an ineradicable fear and anxiety about security that is driving the great powers to make an effort to find a solution to the threat. Military strategists foresee the use of spacecraft with nuclear warheads as an ultimate weapon of war. Even the deployment of artificial satellites for intelligence gathering and target selection is not far off. Well, that pretty much gives you an idea of how old this letter is. Attack no longer comes from an exclusive direction nor from a determined country, but from the sky, with the practical impossibility of determining who the aggressor is, now to intercept the attack, and how to effect immediate reprisals. These problems are compounded further by identification. How does the air defense radar operator identify or more precisely classify his target? When artificial satellites and missiles find their place in space, we must consider the potential threat that unidentified spacecraft pose. One must consider the fact that misidentification of these spacecraft for an intercontinental missile in re-entry phase of flight could lead to an accidental nuclear war with horrible consequences. Lastly, we should consider the possibility that our atmospheric tests of late could have influenced the arrival of celestial scrutiny. They could have been curious or even alarmed by such activity, and rightly so, for the Russians would make every effort to observe and record such tests. In conclusion, it is our professional opinion, based on submitted data, that this situation is extremely perilous, and measures must be taken to rectify a very serious problem are very apparent. Now, who wrote this? Well, everybody should know these names. Dr. Robert Oppenheimer, Professor Albert Einstein. We're talking two of the arguably smartest men in the world at the time, and possibly even still. I mean, not that they're alive, but that they are smarter than anybody that exists now. This was drafted June 1947. The link to Skyships Over Cashiers, who produced this and transcribed the letter, because, as they put it, the original document was too long to post in its entirety, and it was not sharp enough to easily read, so they retyped it but did no editing. They added the boldface highlights, but they didn't change anything. I have sent an email over to this address to ask them for a copy of it so I can embed it. The link to the Skyships Over Cashiers article will be found in the article associated with this video. But if you take a look at the portions that I did highlight, the idea that we would guarantee that their presence would not be revealed, and that our military, even back in 1947, and this was written in June, by the way, this was written a month before the Roswell incident. Evidently, they were worried about something right before the Roswell incident if they approached Einstein and Oppenheimer to ask them for their genius advice, which they gave. Could all of this played out? Did we, in fact, absorb another culture and have them walking around and guarantee them that their presence not be revealed? These are all questions that have come about. Different people have been talking aliens lately, from, I believe it was the Canadian former Defense Minister Hellier. Bill Clinton even was discussing it. The Pope made mention of it. You have Karen Hoods, who, the World Bank whistleblower, who says we have ETs basically walking among us. So I just found this very interesting. Thought maybe you guys would. Thank you.